Now that we have a ground mount solar rack built, it's time to add some panels. In the first video in this series, I completed building a temporary ground mount solar panel rack out of wood. And I also already have almost 2,000 watts of mixed matched panels that I used on my previous home that I can start using right away for free, even though they won't be optimal. Now, this rack won't hold 2,000 watts of panels, but I'm going to fit all of my biggest panels on there, and then I'll worry about the rest later. Now, if I had really efficient panels and I could use every square inch of this rack, I'd probably get 1,600 to 1,800 watts on there. But it's still shocking to me how much space solar panels take up. And this isn't even a medium-sized system, let alone a large system. My future permanent ground mount setup is going to have to be enormous. Anyways, as you can see, the first thing I did was lay the panels out on the ground like a puzzle and take measurements to see if they would all fit and in what orientation they needed to be. I purposely left several inches of space in between each panel, and we'll talk about why I did that later. After figuring out an optimal arrangement of panels on the ground, I started to mount them to the rack. To do that, I'm using cheap right angle brackets from the hardware store and using a block of wood 3/4 inch thick to leave a gap between the panel and the wood itself. There's already going to be plenty of airflow under the panels to cool them down, but I still didn't want the panels touching the wood. These first 4 panels are identical and are 145 watts each. I was also able to fit 2 identical 190 watt panels and 2 identical 100 watt panels with room to spare. This gives me a maximum output of 1,160 watts, but I might be able to find a 40 watt panel somewhere that will fit in the space left over on the bottom right of the rack to give me an even 1,200 watts. This is definitely not enough solar for my needs, but it's enough to get started, and I'll have some room left over on my combiner box for expansion later. When I sell my old house later this year, I should be able to invest some of that into more solar. Okay guys, we've got the solar panels mounted for now, and I'll explain what I did here in a second. Again, I apologize for the generator noise in the background. That's obviously why we're doing the solar, so we can offload some of the power needs of my trailer back here to solar instead of the generator. And eventually I'll be able to buy some bifacial panels and expand this system and get completely off of a generator. But baby steps. This is basically, like I said in the previous video, this was under $200 in wood and hardware and wheels and all the things. The only things that are different from last video, I added, there's a 2x4 here that goes up and down, and then a bigger one that goes up. I noticed that that this was sagging a little bit in the middle. If I could do this all over again, I would have put these 12 footers standing up where they can resist the sagging, much, you know, kind of like your ceiling or your flooring, how those joists go. They're vertical, not horizontal, so that resists the sagging. Anyway, it's not a big deal. I just braced it. All I've got to do to be able to adjust the angle is remove those 2 support pieces, well, and these 2 as well on the front, adjust the angle, and then screw it all back in. So still only takes about 5 minutes, maybe 10 at the most, and I can do it by myself. I don't need any helpers for it. So anyway, back to the panels. So these were all panels I already owned. These 4 were on top of my shed. They are 145 watt panels from DM Solar. Got them a very long time ago, but they still work great. So no reason not to use them. These 2 are 190 watts each. These are much newer panels. I got these for my Ultimate Work Truck series. I was going to put them, if you watch that series, I was going to put them over the bed there. And anyway, that we may still do that in the future, but for now they're being repurposed to this purpose. And then 2 more 100 watt panels there. So this is 4 strings. I'm going to do a 24 volt system. So we've got 1 string, 2 string, 3 string, 4 string, and I've got a 6 string combiner box and so there will be 2 strings left that I can hook up. I've got a whole bunch of the folding portable solar panels, so no reason not to use those as well, especially in the heat of the summer. So I can hook those up and remove them if I need to, if there's a thunderstorm coming, or if I'm leaving for a couple weeks, or whatever. I can remove those easily. But this is going to be the bulk of the production here. I may also buy like a square shaped 24 volt like 30 watt panel or something there, just to add in to take up the extra space. I wish there wasn't this gap here, but that's how it worked out. I needed to kind of, you'll see I used some kind of mending plates to hold these in place, and then everywhere else I used these little angle brackets because they're cheap and they're easy, and they give a gap so that the panels are not actually touching the 2x4s, which will inhibit cooling and all that kind of stuff. Also, these gaps in between, I had a commenter comment on the last video. I'm doing these gaps on purpose. I probably could have squeezed in maybe another panel somewhere, but these gaps are going to allow air to blow through the system and reduce a little bit of that wind sail effect, where wind coming this direction will want to tip the whole thing over. It won't tip it over because I'm going to use those spiral anchors, but I want to resist that as much as possible. But this thing is extremely strong now. I can barely move it, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Again, if you're looking for something sexy, this is the wrong channel, wrong video series, wrong everything. But this is going to be very functional, and again, I can angle it right at the sun, the exact angle that I want to when I get to that point. And then back here, I've got just I put all the junction boxes as close as possible to each other for the different strings. So all I've got left to do, we'll do in another video, is the wiring and mounting a combiner box somewhere, or putting it on the ground here somewhere in some kind of an enclosure. I haven't figured that out yet, but we need to get all this stuff mounted, or all the stuff wired into the strings, get it wired into the combiner box, and then from the combiner box to the charge controller, and then to the inverter charger, and so on and so forth, and then on into the trailer. So still a ton of work to do, but this was the hot, sweaty part out in the sun all day, and I'm glad this part is over, and I think it turned out pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think, and as always guys, thanks for watching. Just like with every other YouTube video you've ever watched, please like and subscribe. That really helps me out.